G'day, ZiggyD here, and welcome to my Build of the Week number 2, level 20 recap for my cruddy two-handed sword Shadow. So the purpose of these videos is to show you how I've progressed the build up to this point, my feelings on how things have been going, the skills that I'm using, the gear I've got, and just give you guys a general idea of how the build progresses up to this point. So just first things first, so far I'm pretty much where you always are around level 20. I'm actually level 21 again, so that tends to happen a little bit. I accidentally over level, but I've cleared out most of the main sections of Act 2. You guys have probably just seen a guide from me about how I approached Act 2, and I'm just sort of now starting to take on some of the side quests in these areas. So up to this point, the build's been pretty solid. I suppose the first thing to cover is I'm still in Hardcore League. This might be a fun fact. Let me just move this out of the way for a second. If we type in /deaths, you have died 0 times. Fantastic. That's better than I can say for my last build where I died against rowers in Act 1. Anyway, now something you might have already noticed and already be screaming at and already furiously typing in the comments below is that you're not using a two-handed sword. Well, I promise I've been using two-handed swords for pretty much most of the time. I've found a bunch of really good two-handed swords and I used those for the most part to level with, but around level 19 I found this really badass one-handed sword. Now the important thing with leveling any build is to not necessarily restrict yourself to the weapons and skills and things like that you use just because you're going to be using them later. So if you're leveling, say, a good example of this was the Lightning Arrow Templars. These were all the rage in closed beta, and everyone wanted to level a Lightning Arrow Templar because they were the best, probably one of the best endgame farming builds. They farmed maps so efficiently. Now what people would do is they'd get a Templar, and then in Act 1 they'd go buy a crude bow and start leveling with the bow. However, the best way to level a Templar up to the later levels before you actually even pick up a bow, like at level 50, is to just use ground slam or sweep or something. Just play a standard sort of thing and just do your passive skill tree as per normal. So yeah, the important point is just to don't feel like you should be restricted to using the skills and weapons and things like that you have to use later on. So since I found a good one-handed sword, I picked up a crappy shield, just whatever, and have been using this because look at this beastly sword. I can't believe it. It dropped with 16% quality, has a 57% increased physical damage, an average physical damage bonus, a massive lightning damage roll, and critical strike chance, which is perfect for this build as well, and perfect for the spec that I've been playing so far. So let's talk about skills first, and then I'll jump into the passives. The AoE I've been using is Cleave, which is supported by the added cold damage support gem there. So I've been using that to, let me just kill one of these guys, to basically cleave down any mobs, and the cold damage sort of just helps with stopping them from attacking as fast, and it's okay. Cleave is an okay AoE ability. It's a good option for leveling up until you can get Lightning Strike, which will be the main focus of this build later on. Now obviously you saw just briefly there was my single target is Dual Strike, which is the ability I'll be using later on in the build as well. Currently that's not supported by anything. I just haven't really had a chance to get any support gems. In terms of support gem quest rewards, the first one I grabbed was added cold damage, and then the second one I've grabbed was actually lesser multiple projectiles. Even though I can't use that yet, that's in preparation for getting Lightning Strike, because Lightning Strike with lesser multiple projectiles is fantastic. So I'll be keeping that aside for now. The other skill I've been using fairly extensively actually, which I didn't plan on, was Bear Trap. Whenever I come across a particularly hard group or a hard mob, I can use that essentially as a ranged attack. You can throw it directly on them, or you can use it while kiting. It's just a nice sort of safe one like that. It helped with bosses, and it's helped with progressing through some of the more difficult zones, especially against flicker strap mobs. It's nice to sort of throw those down, and either it stops them from flickering, or it stops them when they flicker to you so they don't flicker again. So that's pretty neat. In terms of auras, I've been using Wrath pretty extensively. It's just a nice damage boost, and I easily have the mana and stuff to support it already, so I can pretty much level that as much as I want, and I'll be using Wrath pretty much throughout the full game. This build is focused a lot on lightning damage. So let's go ahead and get in here so I'm safe, and we'll take a look at the passives build there. Got to sort of angle around my mic there so I can see what's going on. So as you can see, up to this point, level 21, really focusing on efficient skills around the starting area. So the first thing I did was come down here and go straight towards this strength, because I needed this strength to use some two-handed swords. Obviously the Shadow doesn't start off with any strength, so using the second or the third sword, I can't quite remember which one, requires a fair bit of strength, so that was good to grab that as soon as possible. Then from there I headed up and grabbed acceleration and started getting this life up here, because this has this nice 20 life bonus, which is good to get early. And then I grabbed these life passives here, grabbed mental acuity for a bit of extra mana, and the critical strike chance is nice too. Came across here, an extra 20 bonus to strength, which helps with equipping further swords, and a nice life boost. And I've actually differed from my original build plan by quite a bit. I realised that evasion and energy shield could be really good for this build. Now I'm going to be getting iron reflexes later, so the evasion bonuses here helps with iron reflexes, because that calculation is done before the iron reflex calculation is done. Also, nullification gives you elemental resistances, which is fantastic. And also the energy shield is going to help while leveling if I happen to use any energy shield gear, because the three main gear types I'm going to be using are either pure evasion, evasion energy shield, or evasion armor, because they're the best ones to sort of level with. And later on, if I decide I will go for Eldritch Battery, the energy shield bonuses actually essentially convert to mana bonuses. So everything here that says 10% increased maximum energy shield gives me 10% extra mana from the energy shield. So that's a nice one there. Now I'm sort of just working my way up into the critical areas. Probably grab Mind Drinker first, maybe to support a bit more mana. And then if I get Lightning Strike by that point, I'll go ahead and get these lightning passives here. Arcing Blows, Lightning Damage, Shock, those sorts of ones there. And then I think my next goal will be to head straight towards Iron Reflexes, because that's something I want to get probably, by the time I'm in Cruel. So maybe in the next build highlight, you should, at the level 40 recap is what I'm trying to say, you'll see me with Iron Reflexes, because I really don't like to rely on evasion that much. Progressing as a melee character, it gets a bit nasty. So if I'm finding really good evasion gear, I'll try and really speed towards Iron Reflexes, and then maybe later on I'll go for Unwavering Stance. But we'll see. I sort of really have to wing this build since it's one I haven't played before. So the last thing I just want to look at is gear, because I haven't really looked in depth at gear in any of these videos before, and I've had a few requests to, so I'll go ahead and talk about the things that I'm looking for and the types of gear that I have currently. So basically, I've already showed you my sword. It's kick-ass, it has lightning damage, has good damage. Basically, the realms are starting in 20 minutes, so I better wrap this up. Basically, in the early game, just damage mods on your weapon, that's all you need. Just whatever sort of helmets. As I said earlier, I'm focusing on evasion, armor, and energy shield, because they're all good ones to have in the early game. Pure evasion isn't even that good in the early game, since it takes stacking quite a bit for it to really benefit. So getting combined armor ones are quite nice. So I've got this, doublet here, doublet. Gloves, good to have damage modifiers. You kill stuff faster, it can't kill you. Everything else is just gravy. I'm using a strength belt, which helped a lot with equipping. Also gives me damage bonus and health bonuses, that's what I'm trying to say. Also, flask effects on belts are pretty much good always, but they're especially good while you're leveling. So this one gives increased flask duration. There's also recovery speed and charge recovery, so they're all great mods to have, and if you can get all three of those on a belt in the early game, then you're going pretty well. Boots are move speed. Try and get move speed boots no matter what. It's just going to make your leveling a lot faster. And I'll just grab a shield for now. I've got pretty nice int amulet here. I'm just using to... I found my mana costs for some of my spells were getting a little bit hard to support, so I grabbed that int one there. Life gems, and I'm only using this iron ring because it was a decent rare, but I'll probably switch over to a resistance ring pretty soon, depending on what I need in terms of resistances. Otherwise life and resistances are always good choices on there. And the other thing is just to make sure you're always upgrading your flask. Not too much to say there. I only need one mana flask, speed flask, and all health flask. Pretty good stuff. So far this has been a lot of fun, actually. A lot of fun to level up this point. The last build that I leveled, the Blood Magic Bow Jewels, is really quite slow in the early game. But since this one has a lot more damage focus earlier on, it was really fun to level up to this point. I think up until level 40 will also be quite good. I think after Cruel, or towards the end of Cruel, is when things will start getting difficult, if they are going to get difficult. But who knows, this build could end up being awesome, we'll see. Hopefully it does. Oh well. So that's pretty much it for this recap. I'll see you guys for, the next guide video I release or something like that. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.